Hey guys, it's me, Rohan from Rohan's Tutoring. I'm a GAMSAT tutor tutoring Section 1 and Section 2. And in today's video, we're going to look at how to dissect a Section 1 text, particularly in a sort of famed, dreaded text for Section 1 students, which is poetry, the most dreaded of all. So today we're going to be looking at how you can break down, analyze, and answer some Section 1 questions for poetry. So before we look at a worked example today, what I firstly want to talk through is kind of some fundamentals of poetry. So the first thing you really want to pay attention to in poetry is your ability to read a text from top to bottom and to pick up the main points, right? So when you read a piece of poetry, the likelihood is that you're not going to understand every single word, every single line, and every single meaning. And that's because poetry is delicately poised to be a figurative and literal text at the same time. And so your ability to pick up some of that deeper meaning, all-round meaning, is sometimes inhibited by your ability to read the whole text. So sometimes to read and understand poetry, you actually need to read it a couple of times through to fully comprehend it. We've all been there. We've read a text of poetry top to bottom and not actually picked up anything, not actually had anything really sink in and settle down. What we want to focus on with Section 1 is being okay with that fact, getting comfortable with the fact that you are at times going to read a text and you're probably going to understand 30, 40, maybe 50% of it. And that's okay, right? Because what you're going to find is in Section 1, a lot of the questions will color in the rest of the chapter or the rest of the topic that you're covering. So you want to be okay with that. Like the first step before we even look at strategy is actually a mental thing. So it's actually being okay with the fact that you are going to walk into some questions not fully understanding the text. Now, that in mind, what are some things you can do to make it a bit easier for you? So the first thing that a lot of people just don't do is pay attention to the title of a poem. The title of a poem will tell you a lot about what the poem is going to do. A lot of people, you'll be surprised how many times students just look over the title of a poem. It gives you some real foundational information about the general setting and topic of the poem. And the example we're about to look at will be a really good example of that. The second thing that you want to focus on when you're looking at poetry is to sort of sense the mood or the tone that's being generated. So whilst you might not fully be able to understand exactly what's happening sort of scene to scene or line to line, you should be able to pick up on a general mood and tone and atmosphere. And that comes from adjectives, general tonality, diction, and word choice from the poet. And when the poem we're about to look at, you're going to see that the certain type of tone and atmosphere of grimness, loneliness is exacerbated by certain word choices that the poet uses. Okay, so without further ado, let's have a look at an example of a poem that you could get in your Section 1 of GAMSAT. Okay, so you guys should be familiar with a poem like this. It's in the free practice questions that GAMSAT gives you when you sign up. So these are available for everyone once you register for the GAMSAT. So this one's called Sandpiper, and it's a poem I get handed in and asked about all the time because it's one of those, really tricky poems that when you read it a couple of times through, it still doesn't really click entirely, and the questions are also not the easiest. So before we even look at the questions, again, like I just said, one of the things you really want to pay attention to is the title. Now, even if you weren't aware of the title, which is Sandpiper, a sandpiper is a bird, but even if you didn't know that, there are clues elsewhere in the poem that would give that away. But if you did know that, all of a sudden you know exactly what this poem is going to be about. It's about a bird. Now, if you're wondering, okay, well, let's say I didn't know that sandpiper was a bird. How else do I know? Well, it tells you literally right here, right? So that poem, that line there tells you exactly that, this poem is about a bird, okay? Now, the thing that's tricky about this poem is that it is a little bit metaphorical, symbolic, and not always the most literal and clear with what it's trying to say. So if we look at the first line, the roaring alongside he takes for granted, okay? Now, that line is really important there because it introduces quite an important concept or sort of item in this poem, which is the sea, okay? And the sea is represented by this roaring alongside. So it's a metaphorical characterization of waves, the ocean, the sound that's generated there. So we can call this also, what we can call auditory imagery, okay? Where the object of the ocean is being characterized by its sound, the roaring alongside. Now, the other thing I want you guys to think about there a little bit is, what does that word roaring suggest, right? Fairly violent, okay, forgive the handwriting, fairly violent, fairly aggressive, fairly loud, okay? So we want to start thinking about those things as we go through. Now, this poem sort of personifies, I'm gonna write this is a really important word, personifies, okay, the bird. So the bird is the focus of this poem, but it's personified. In other words, it's a non-human person, or well, it's a non-human bird that's actually been brought to life with these real human characteristics. Okay. So before you even dig into the poem, if you didn't really understand all the stuff that was going on, you should be able to pick up on some characterizations. The other thing to pay attention to across the poem is how is the mood, tension, and atmosphere created, okay? And that's done with a lot of different words. So again, like things like the beach are also personified and given a certain character with hisses like fat, okay? So it gives you a certain type of image and concept in your mind of how this beach appears to the bird. Okay, now let's have a look at some questions here. So looking at question 22, according to the poem, the sandpiper regards the sea as. So what we're paying attention to here is the sandpiper regarding the sea, right? So we're thinking about perspective. How does the sandpiper feel, okay? How does the sandpiper feel about the sea? Now, to answer that, we want to pay attention probably to any interactions that the sandpiper has. Like, and I see that obviously the poem annotation is getting a bit messy here, so I'm just going to whip out a different color. I'm going to go with blue, and I'm just going to go through and kind of point out any key places where I think the sandpiper is having some kind of reaction or is doing something, behaving in a way which is indicative of his behavior or his attitude towards the sea. Okay, now remember, the sea, of course, is mentioned to us in the first line. So let's have a look. Is there something here that's shown to us in this first little stanza? The roaring alongside he takes for granted. Okay, so he's taking the sea for granted. In other words, he's maybe, not admiring it as much as he should. He's not paying as much attention to it as he should. Okay, where, he runs to the south, finical, awkward, in a state of control, panic, a student of Blake. Okay, but in that first stanza, that line, he takes for granted, tells us exactly how he feels about the roaring alongside. Okay. On his left, a sheet of interrupting water comes and goes, right? So comes and goes, again, is an indication that, again, this is his perspective, right? This is a very personal poem from the perspective of the sandpiper. And what we're showing here is that, the water's just coming and going. He's not really playing a key role in his life, right? In his day-to-day activities, it just comes and goes, okay? It glazes over his dark and brittle feet. The other thing we can see here, if we look at the fourth stanza, okay, is the tide is higher or lower. He couldn't tell you which. Now that's really important there because again, the changes in the sea, the changes in the tide are not making a huge difference to the behavior, the mindset of the sandpiper. Okay, so that's a lot of information that we can gather about this question. So if we go back to the question and we look at the options now, the sandpiper regards the sea as a threat. Okay, well that probably doesn't align with what we've talked about, so I'm going to cross that one out. He hasn't really felt fearful or threatened by anything here. Untroubling, distracting, or the source of life. Okay, well, is he finding it distracting? Is he being put off, or is his actions and behavior being changed by it? No, so we cross that one off. The source of life, again, if it was a source of life, we would anticipate the sandpiper to pay a lot of attention and importance to the sea. And no, that's not what we're told. Untroubling, though, is the one that's left. And that fits what we talked about, right? He's untroubled by the sea. It doesn't bother him. It doesn't affect him much. He treats it as something that exists there, but doesn't play a huge role in his day-to-day activities. So B is the answer for that one. Okay, let's do one more question. So let's do 23 as well here. So to the speaker, the sandpiper first appears. So remember, first appears. This is going to be a question from the start of the poem. Okay, so there's no point looking here to find evidence for this one. It's going to be at the start of the poem. So if we have a look at, I'm just going to rub out some of these annotations just so it's a bit clear for us. Hopefully you've got that down. There we go. Okay, so how does he, again, we're paying attention to how he appears, the sandpiper. So particularly, I would say that the focus is on these two lines here. He runs to the south, finical, awkward, controlled panic, a student of Blake. So those are the key pieces of information we're given. Okay. Now, if we go through the answers again here. So the sandpiper first appears a symbolic figure connecting land and sea. Now, to me, this first stanza is, unlike a lot of poetry, it's not very metaphorical or symbolic. It's actually quite straightforward. It tells you that there's a sea, the bird takes it for granted, and he's just doing his own thing. There's no metaphor, symbolism, or sort of extra third, fourth layer of thinking or imagery here.
for us to think that deeply. So for us to think that this is a symbolic figure between land and sea, I mean, that's just probably assuming too much there. So it's not going to be A. Distracted and disturbed by the surroundings. Again, we spoke about this in 22. That's obviously not correct. At the interface between real and mythical worlds. Well, again, this idea of mythical worlds hasn't really been introduced because all of this is real, right? It's literal. It's an actual sort of sea or ocean that's hitting against the rocks or whatever sound it's making with the waves, that the bird is just taken for granted. He's just doing about his own thing. He's running around. He's doing his own little awkward, panicked little behavior. Mythical words, not really displayed there. So not going to be C. Disconcertingly unaware of the larger surroundings. That is going to be our answer. And again, that you can see aligns really well here as well. So you can see, even if we didn't have this real good understanding of the poem as we've shown here, as you go through the options, you can kind of go back and work through what information you've been given and go through from there. Remember, the really important thing here is to make sure that whatever answer you put down can be supported with evidence from the text. If you can't find evidence from the text, you're going to find it very difficult to answer the question appropriately. So that's it, folks. I mean, hopefully you got something out of that. It's only one text, it's only a couple of questions, but that's a look at how you can go about dissecting poetry to do well in section 1. If you're interested for more content like that, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn that notifications on for more videos like this. I'm running some section 1 workshops ahead of the September GAMSAT, so if you're interested in that, there's a link down below in the description for you to sign up. I've got some spots available for that. They'll be kick-starting from the 10th of August onwards on Saturday mornings, Australian Eastern Time. So if you're interested with that, click the link in the description below. That'll take you to an inquiry form that you can fill out, and hopefully we can get you started with some section 1 workshops. We'll be doing questions like these, working through systematic processes to solve these questions. If you've got any questions, leave them down below. But otherwise, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.